The Glass House. Kara Matthews stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, watching the city lights flicker on as dusk settled over the skyline. 20 floors below, people scurried home after another workday. But Kara's day was far from over. The Metropolitan Business Journal had just named her one of the 40 under 40 to watch in the financial sector. Matthews Consulting had tripled its client base in 18 months. Her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Just heard about the journal. Champagne's already chilling. So proud of you." She smiled, tracing her finger over his message. 7 years of marriage, and he still celebrated every victory as if it were his own. Another notification. "Lily, conference room secured for tomorrow's pitch. Everything's ready. I've got your back as always. Also, drinks tonight to celebrate? Let's make the boys jealous." Kara laughed. Her husband and her best friend, the two pillars of her carefully constructed life. Lily had been there from the beginning, when Matthews Consulting was just a pipe dream sketched on cocktail napkins. Now they were partners, conquering the business world together. Perfect career, perfect marriage, perfect friendship. Kara had worked relentlessly for this life, each piece meticulously arranged like the modern art hanging in their penthouse apartment. The champagne bottle was empty, the celebration winding down. Ethan was in the shower when his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Kara glanced over, not meaning to pry, but the preview caught her eye. "L, can't wait for tomorrow. Our usual spot?" Something in her stomach twisted. She picked up the phone. Ethan never locked it. They had nothing to hide from each other. At least, that's what she'd always believed. The message thread with L went back months. Innocent at first, then increasingly intimate. "Miss your touch already. Last night was incredible. She suspects nothing." The L was Lily. Kara's hands trembled as she scrolled through months of betrayal, her vision blurring with each message. She hardly noticed when the shower stopped running. "Kara?" She looked up to see Ethan in the doorway, water still clinging to his shoulders, comprehension dawning on his face as he saw the phone in her hands. "How long?" Her voice was deadly calm. "It's not what you think," Ethan stammered, reaching for the phone. Kara pulled back. "Does that line ever actually work? Because I'm looking at months of not what I think." "Kara, please, I'm calling Lily." "Don't." But she already had, putting the call on speaker. Lily answered on the second ring, her voice cheerful. "Hey bestie, what's up? Still riding that high from your big news?" "I just found Ethan's texts, all of them." The silence on the other end spoke volumes. "I want you both to come clean, now." 20 minutes later, Lily sat perched on the edge of their sofa, Ethan pacing by the windows. The city lights no longer seemed beautiful to Kara, just cold, distant witnesses to her humiliation. "How could you?" Kara whispered, looking between them. "My husband, my best friend. It just happened," Lily said weakly. "For 8 months? Nothing just happens for 8 months." "I love her," Ethan said suddenly. Kara laughed bitterly. "So this is where you tell me you're leaving me for my best friend? How cliché." Lily and Ethan exchanged a look that made Kara's skin crawl. There was something calculated in that glance, something beyond mere guilt. "There's more, isn't there?" Kara asked. The anonymous email arrived the next morning. "Check the offshore account transfers from Matthews Consulting. Follow the money. No signature, just an attachment with bank statements." Kara's hands shook as she followed the paper trail. Small amounts at first, then increasingly larger sums, all funneled from the company's accounts to a shell corporation. Transfers authorized with her digital signature, a signature she'd only shared with 2 people. Her office door flew open. The Westfield deal is collapsing, her assistant announced frantically. They're claiming we misrepresented the numbers. What? Kara pulled up the Westfield file. The projections had been altered, inflated to unrealistic figures. This isn't what we prepared. These numbers. Her phone rang. Another client, then another. By noon, 3 major accounts had pulled out, citing false projections and breach of trust. Kara stared at her computer screen, the pieces falling into place. This wasn't just an affair. This was corporate sabotage from the inside. While she'd been building, Ethan and Lily had been systematically undermining her, setting her up to fail spectacularly, just as they reached the company's peak valuation. The security footage was the final confirmation. 3:42 a.m., 2 weeks ago. Lily entering the office using Kara's key card, accessing her computer. Ethan had created the distraction that night, a romantic surprise dinner that had kept Kara away from home until late. Every memory now twisted with new meaning. The late nights Lily volunteered to handle. The surprise trips Ethan planned that coincided with crucial business deadlines. The subtle suggestions that pushed Kara toward risky clients while steering her away from stable ones. They wanted it all, Kara whispered to her reflection in the bathroom mirror. My company, my reputation. The final piece had come that afternoon, documentation of a new company being formed, with Lily as CEO and Ethan as CFO, ready to sweep in and acquire Matthews Consulting's assets once its reputation was in tatters. The life Kara had built wasn't just crumbling, it had been a mirage all along. How long have you been planning this? Kara asked, sitting across from Ethan at the restaurant he'd chosen for their reconciliation meeting. Public enough that he'd feel safe, private enough for conversation. Planning what? His eyes were all innocence. I know everything, Ethan. The transfers, the sabotaged client files, the new company you and Lily are forming. His expression flickered, surprise, then calculation. He reached for her hand. Baby, I think the stress is making you paranoid. Maybe you should take some time off. Gaslighting now? That's low, even for you. She slid a folder across the table. Bank records, security footage, the incorporation papers for Phoenix Partners. Interesting name choice, by the way. Rising from my ashes? Ethan's facade cracked. You weren't supposed to find out until it was too late. Clearly, you don't understand. He leaned forward, voice low. It was always supposed to be Lily's company. You were the face, the connections. She had the vision. And you? What were you in this equation? Insurance, he said simply, keeping you distracted, making sure you didn't look too closely at the numbers. And the marriage? Was that part of the job too? Something flickered in his eyes, the first genuine emotion she'd seen. That part got complicated. Kara worked through the night, calling in favors, setting her counterattack in motion. By morning, she had secured emergency funding from a silent investor who'd been watching her career for years. She arrived at the office early, waiting at Lily's desk with a single folder. What's this? Lily asked warily when she arrived. Your resignation letter. Sign it or I release everything. The affair, the embezzlement, the corporate espionage. You'll never work in this industry again. You can't prove? Try me. Kara's voice was ice. A smart woman like you should know when she's beaten. Later that day, she met with the board, presenting evidence of Lily's betrayal while keeping Ethan's involvement quiet. For now, she needed him to believe he was still in the clear. That night, she kissed him when he came home, played the role of the wounded wife seeking comfort. When he fell asleep, she transferred the last of their joint savings to her private account and uploaded the final evidence package to her lawyer. 3 months later, Kara sat across from a potential client in her rebuilt office. Matthews Consulting had weathered the storm, emerging leaner but stronger. Lily had disappeared after being served with legal papers. Ethan was fighting the divorce proceedings, still unaware that Kara knew the full extent of his betrayal. Impressive recovery, the client noted, examining the portfolio. Most companies wouldn't survive that kind of crisis. Most companies don't know what I know now, Kara replied. Trust is valuable, but verification is essential. Her phone buzzed with a notification. Ethan had just been served with criminal charges for his role in the embezzlement scheme. The client signed the contract and left. Kara turned to the windows, watching the city below. The perfect life she'd built had been an illusion, constructed on shifting foundations of lies and manipulation. The new one would be different, built on steel and verification, with no room for blind trust. Her reflection stared back, eyes sharper than before. The woman who had believed in perfect marriages and perfect friendships was gone. In her place stood someone who understood that real power came not from being loved, but from being feared. The glass house had shattered, but from its ruins, Kara had built a fortress.
If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications.